Hello and welcome to Timeless with Julie Hartman. I'm Julie Hartman, and it is great, as always, to be with you. We got Sean McConnell right now in the producer's dungeon. Hello, Sean. Great to be with you, buddy. You're looking left and right.
Oh, that doesn't help anyone who's listening. Yes? I should probably say something. Hi, Julie.
I'm glad you mentioned the listening, because you can watch this show on YouTube, but you can also listen to it on Apple and Spotify. We're an equal opportunity show here on Timeless. You can watch or you can listen. That's exactly right.
You have a very robust listening audience.
Yes, that's true.
I think people should probably watch on YouTube, but hey, if you're over there listening, why aren't you watching on YouTube? Huh?
Well, you know what? Today is actually a really good episode to watch on YouTube. Thank you for bringing that up, because we're going to spend today and tomorrow talking about a Venn diagram that I put together to explain the moment that we're in right now in our country. Those of you who've been watching or listening, consuming the show for some time now know that I've showed this Venn diagram on this show before. I don't know if we have the clips of Kamala Harris, but Sean last time played these hilarious montages of our vice president talking about her love of Venn diagrams. I'll explain to you what this is. Right now in our country, obviously.
Remember Venn diagrams, those three circles? Right. And then let's just see where they overlap. I have constructed a Venn diagram on this. Remember those three circles, how they overlap?
Oh,
I
no.
love Venn diagrams. So I just do. So, the three circles. And so I asked my team, right? They're fantastic. Geeking out right now. He sees the Venn diagram of it all. He sees that there are those circles, and maybe people seem that they're a little different. They live in different parts of the country. They may be different age or different race. I asked my team to do a Venn diagram. I asked my team to do a Venn diagram for me. When you look at a diagram of just a Venn diagram.
Oh my gosh. Well, as I said when we played that on the show a few weeks ago, my Venn diagrams, I hope, are better than Vice President Kamala Harris's Venn diagrams. But I wanted to devote the show today and tomorrow towards this Venn diagram business, because many of you wrote into me saying how much you appreciated my Venn diagram as opposed to Vice President Kamala Harris's. But here's the background. Right now, as we know, we are in a very tough moment in our country. We have an election coming up just right around the corner, and there's a lot of strife between left and right. I have said on the show several times before that I have never been more certain nor more steadfast in my support of Donald Trump as president of the United States than I am now. And in large part, I say that because I believe that we are no longer in a left versus right, liberal versus conservative, Democrat versus Republican moment in our country. We are in a moment of civilization versus anti-civilization. A vote for Donald Trump, even if one doesn't love the man, and there are a lot of reasons to maybe have some hesitation, but a vote for Donald Trump, in my view, is a vote to save Western civilization. It's a vote to save America, and it's a vote, above all else, for common sense. Again, it's really not so much anymore about left versus right. And in order to really hammer this point home, I thought that, like our Vice President Kamala Harris, I would create some kind of visual, some kind of way of explaining this civilizational moment that we're in. And so I created what we'll call the Julie Hartman Venn diagram. So we're going to put this up, and then I'm going to explain parts of really what I mean by this today. And then tomorrow in our episode, I'm going to be playing clips of the Richard Nixon versus John F. Kennedy presidential debate in 1960, and further continue to argue this point that we're no longer in a left versus right moment. We're in a civilizational versus anti-civilizational moment. So these episodes are really two parts. So please, of course, listen or watch to the one today, but also the one tomorrow. But let's start here by looking at this Venn diagram. So we have right here a breakdown of what I deem to have been politics in the 1950s and 1960s. Now, of course, we can't reduce all of American politics to a diagram. These are kind of broad brushstrokes. And the main point here, and by the way, if we could get me on camera, if it's possible, if not, no problem. I just think it's helpful to sort of point, but if not, it's completely fine. I would view politics, the divisions in the 1950s, as sort of what we're seeing right here. You had differences between the left, or Democrats, and the right, Republicans. We see those differences there. Obviously, Democrats and Republicans have disagreed for a long time on abortion, being pro-choice versus pro-life. They disagreed in the 1950s, certainly about America's role in the world. I put a parenthesis there for varied because we tend to understand politics in the 1950s as, Democrats wanted to curb our involvement in Vietnam, whereas Republicans were more hawkish and wanted to further it. But it's actually more complicated than that. But you take my point that Democrats and Republicans varied on things like, should we increase our presence, for instance, in Vietnam? Another thing that Democrats and Republicans disagreed on, the extent to which religion should be in the public square, the extent to which a unionization should play a role in our country, spending. But here's the main point. Despite these Democrat versus Republican differences, there was always a core center of values that both sides, generally speaking, subscribe to. Whether you were a Democrat or Republican, again, generally speaking, in the 1950s, you had patriotic values. You loved your country. We see there, I put another line item, which is bourgeoisie values. We as Americans, regardless of left versus right, tended to generally agree on things like you work hard before you have fun. You prioritize your family. You get married and have children. You go to church. You get a high school education and hopefully also a college education. There were these kind of values, ways of living that we in America have called bourgeoisie values that generally both sides adopted. They weren't en masse really contested. To go down the line, and you see here in the center of the Venn diagram, generally, Democrats and Republicans in the 1950s agreed on, that you need rule of law. You need police. You need to punish criminals for crime. You should judge people based on their merit and not on their immutable characteristics. To go down the line here, that freedom of speech, freedom of religion are core American values. The Democrats, old school liberals, in the 50s, they would agree that we should protect the First Amendment. We now have a, ban hate speech movement. So the point is, again, we had this center core of values that both sides really generally subscribed to. And then Democrats and Republicans debated about truly liberal versus conservative things like abortion or like unionization. Now that has totally changed, which brings us to the second part of the Venn diagram. And this is my analysis. I created this Venn diagram with the great help of our dear producers in the producer's dungeon. But this is my analysis here and my idea. The way that I judge our political shifts over the past few decades is that, yes, in some ways we continue to debate about liberal versus conservative things. Abortion is a big example. Yeah, the Democratic Party is still characteristically liberal when it comes to abortion. I actually think they've gone too far. I actually think old school Democrats were more pro-choice, but safe, legal, and rare. I think Democrats have gone too far. But you take my greater point. Yeah, in some ways, we still have liberal versus conservative divides between the Democrat and Republican Party on things like abortion. But really, the way our country has shifted today is that the core values in the middle that I had mentioned, patriotism, love of country, respect for the rule of law, bourgeoisie values, meritocracy, reverence for the nuclear family, freedom of speech and religion. Those center things, in my view, have gone to the right. They are now, generally speaking, and in large, being defended by the Republican Party and by conservatives. So we can let the Venn diagram fade away for a minute. Did you miss me?
Hey, Jules, I love that the one thing left in the middle is the one thing I'm always complaining
Yes.
about. Spending,
That's right.
spending. I don't care who's in the White House. I don't care who's in the House or the Congress. It's disgusting.
That's right. That's
It's
what I left in the
disgusting,
middle.
And it's us versus them, and we're not being served. The spending is out of control.
It is out of control. And thank you I feel seen and heard by you, Sean. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that I put that in the middle. And again, I just want to make clear, this is all my idea. I came up with this Venn diagram. I didn't get it from this is all Julie. This is all Julie's creation. So some of you wrote into me and said that it was great. And I love that it's great. If you share it with people, and you'll see it in print soon, but if you share it with people, you have to credit me because it's my formulation. But yes, I put spending in the middle because, let's be honest, both parties do it crazily. I mean, when President Trump was in office, from 2016 to 2020, we racked up nearly $7 trillion in our debt. And then now, since Joe Biden has been in office, we've racked up $7 trillion more in our debt. Now, of course, there are varying circumstances, pertaining to those two things. Donald Trump, for instance, got hit with COVID during his presidency. A lot of our spending was COVID, and a lot of that was not under President Trump's control. We don't need to go down that whole rabbit hole. But the point is, both Democrats and Republicans do spend crazily. But the main point, and I really don't want us to miss this, and this explains so much of my support for Donald Trump and the growing support among many different kinds of groups in this country for Donald Trump. It's that right now in our country, Donald Trump, for all of his flaws, for all of his faults, is the one who is defending what used to be in that center. It's really not about conservatism anymore. It's really not. It's about defending those values. And so for the rest of the episode today, and again, for the episode tomorrow, I want to prove that. I want to prove that this movement is about defending those core values. This is the civilizational moment that we're in. Speaking of defending yourself and setting yourself up and your family for the best possible outcomes, before we continue, I want to quickly tell you about Priority Gold. Economists warn that massive tax hikes, speaking of spending policy, could devastate your IRA and 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. With inflation and the rise of global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, it's time to make it a priority, and you should consider Priority Gold. They can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit prioritygold.com/golden for your free gold info guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Experts are agreeing right now that physical gold is one of the best ways to fortify your savings amid economic uncertainty and volatility. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit prioritygold.com/golden to learn more. Again, that's 1-800-405-GOLD. So I want to play this clip of President Donald Trump. And this is so much of his messaging. He's not saying it overtly in the Julie Venn diagram way, though if President Trump, you're listening, you're very welcome to use my Venn diagram as long as you cite me. But you'll notice that when he's campaigning, he's not really speaking so much in terms of conservatism anymore. He's speaking in terms of this civilizational moment, this moment of defending freedom, this moment of defending patriotism, the things we all used to generally agree on and are now under assault by the left. Here's a recent comment of the former president's in a campaign rally.
They want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's very simple. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. They want you silent. And I am the only one that can save this nation because you know they're not coming after me, they're coming after you, and I just happen to be standing in their way, and I will never be moving.
Listen to how important that is. That is everything. He's not coming up there and saying, we need to restore conservatism. He's not up there talking, and obviously in other speeches, he talks about things like abortion, but his main messaging is not abortion or unionization or truly old school conservative things. His messaging, and it's true, is that he is the one who is going to at least try to save the United States and Western civilization. He is speaking in terms of this civilizational moment. And by the way, again, this is why he is having massive, upticks in support across a lot of different demographic groups. Many on the left are left dumbstruck at, for instance, his growing support among Black Americans. A New York Times Siena poll in March found that Donald Trump went from having about 3% of support among Black Americans in 2020 to having around 23% by the same poll right now in 2024, whereas President Biden had about 92% of support among Black Americans by that poll in 2020 and now has gone down to about 66. People are going, oh my God, why is that the case? Why is it that Trump, according to that same New York Times Siena poll, is leading among Latinos, 47% to Biden's 40%? People are going, oh my God, why are people voting for Orange Man Bad? They're voting for Orange Man Bad because Orange Man Bad is trying to do something Orange Man good and save our civilization. It's about civilizational values. It's not about conservatism. So let's go through here. This is so important. This is so important, and it's going to be a cornerstone of this show, of what I talk about from now until this election. We have to wise up to this moment that we're in. So let's go back to the Venn diagram. Maybe we just have the Kamala thing on repeat. No, playing her once was very much enough of her voice today. Let's go to the second part, again, of the Venn diagram. So we have the 1950s. Yes, there you are. And then let's go to the 2020s. Okay. So you can see that I have moved the things that were in the middle to the right. And you may be listening to me and you may be going, too dramatic. Is it? Let's consider this here. So I mentioned that patriotism and love of country, I am moving to the right. Well, nowadays, it is considered to be conservative to wear a flag, to fly a flag. Think about this, and we can let the Venn diagram fade if you want to come back to yours truly. I'm just trying to have you not get tired with your eyes looking at the Venn diagram, but think about this. Let's really think about this honestly. When you see someone walking down the street and they're wearing a sweatshirt that has the American flag on it, or you see someone driving, as I did today, driving to work, and see someone with an American flag bumper sticker, do you think they're a Democrat? Sean, do you think they're a Democrat?
Sorry, I wasn't paying attention.
Whoa, whoa,
I know.
whoa.
Shame.
You're okay.
Run it by me one more again.
It's okay. When what I'm trying to say is that how patriotism and love of country is now not in every case, but generally considered to be a right wing or conservative thing. And when you see someone wearing a
it's really
sweatshirt,
unfortunate.
it's horribly unfortunate.
But I would say this, dear liberals of the country, please display the flag.
Yes.
Be proud of your country. You don't have to buy into the far left rhetoric. It's okay to stand up and stake your flag in liberalism.
See, it's 100% true. And it's even a shame that you have to say it. No offense. It's to live. I say this to everyone. It's ridiculous to second guess flying or wearing your country's flag. People who are in Iran, which is one of the most brutal regimes in the world, especially to women. If you see someone wearing a sweatshirt with an Iranian flag, do you think that person endorses every single thing that Iran has done or does now? Of course not. You look at that person, they go, they're from Iran, they love their country. Fly the flag because you're from this country, but also fly the flag because, damn it, we should be proud to be members of this country. But the point is that now this is seen as conservative, and it's not. I know liberals who fly the flag. I'm not saying that everyone who flies the flag is conservative, but what I'm saying is that patriotism and love of country has been pushed to the right and is deemed as a right-wing thing. And that's why a right-wing candidate, Trump, is running and getting a lot of support and seeing as the person who's saving civilizational American values, because the left has pushed love of country to the right. Sean, I know you want to cut in, but I think this will hammer it home, and this is really important. I've played this clip on the show before. This is a clip from Harvard's graduation ceremony. It's a law school speaker who was chosen by Harvard to deliver the address, and this proves my point, that this person is slandering the United States of America, and it is now seen as, again, kind of compulsory if you have left-wing values to slander America.
We will be decision makers, and we will have discretion. Over and over, we will bear responsibility for making decisions that will change other people's lives. Think about just some of the people whose lives we may help shape. Women dealing with the fallout of having their reproductive rights stripped.
Okay, so that's left. That's a left-wing policy or statement.
Immigrants fleeing places where there are no universities left from which to graduate. Trans and queer people forced to hide who they are.
That's a left-wing statement, left-wing position.
Climate refugees escaping homes that have become uninhabitable.
Doesn't get more left
One of the
than that.
1 in 3 black boys who can expect to go to jail in his lifetime.
And then here it comes.
And citizens whose only mistake was being born poor in a country like America that criminalizes poverty.
That is disgusting. That is disgusting. To get up there and say that America criminalizes poverty is disgusting. Plain and simple. You can criticize America. You can criticize, there are many things to criticize, but to say this country criminalizes poverty? Are you kidding? With all the massive social welfare programs that we have, and by the way, I think those are run very inefficiently. I think we're actually doing wrong by people who are in poverty. But to say that America is criminalizing poverty and to just slander your country like that, I'm not saying that this person is representative of everyone on the left. And by the way, I always make distinctions between left and liberal. But I think this proves the point that if you are espousing left versus liberal values, not, criticizing your country is part and parcel of that. And that's why patriotism and love of country has been pushed to the right. Because if that speaker or another speaker got up and said, hey, we should defend this country. I love this country. This country is the most noble country on earth, but we need to do better by some people, and we need to be leaders in pursuit of this great country. They would get slandered as being a right-wing Nazi. You know it's true. And so that's why I put these values to the right. Because imagine if that speech would be different if that person framed it not as F America, but as I love America. You know they would be painted as a right-wing person. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, so this polarization that we find ourselves in serves no one. We've allowed the fringe to be amplified. It becomes part of our daily feed, and it seems like the intellectuals on both sides attack the less intellectuals on the other side in the fringe, and it just goes back and forth, and I can't, the algorithms, I want to throw up. Before my time, before your time, from my grandfather's generation, the greatest generation who fought for our freedom abroad, there was a battle between Ford guys and Chevy guys. And they would get together on the 4th of July or Memorial Day and have barbecues together and discuss politics. And they could disagree about Ford and Chevy, but they both flew the flag. And that's what I'm saying we have to get back to here. You can disagree on things. You can be civil. But we can all wave the flag, and we can all be Americans, and we can all agree on certain values that have seemingly shifted from right to left, and people have stood still and watched the politics pass them by.
I lament that it has shifted from left to right or center to right. I'm just trying to diagnose this moment that we're in. I want liberals to reclaim patriotism. This is not, I hope this is making sense. This isn't like I mean, I am conservative. I always say that, but this isn't like a whole talk advocating for conservatism. Again, let's recenter ourselves. This is, we have a big decision coming up. We have a very consequential election. And I believe that Donald Trump is the person we need to vote for, irrespective of liberal and conservative, just to revive the values that made us all American. I want liberals to fly the flag. I hate that up there, people who consider themselves to be left-wing view it as their compulsion to just criticize America all the time. That's not cool. And I think that's what Donald Trump is trying to revive, and why a lot of people are going towards him, because they associate him and his movement with loving the country and flying the flag. All right, let's move on to other things. I mean, the just further evidence, I believe, that these values have been shifted right, and now conservatives are trying to conserve what were considered to just be American values. This is not about even politics anymore. It's just American values. Respect for the rule of law. That's another one I put that was once in the center of the Venn diagram and is now moved right. Well, I think that's pretty obvious that the right is now the ones kind of defending those things. I mean, what was the push to defund the police? That was from the left. And anybody who says that didn't happen is lying to you. If we want to use the Austin Police Department as an example, a case study, Austin, Texas, according to Austin Chief Michael Bullock, Austin Police Department Chief, in 2020, the Austin City Council voted to cut the Austin police budget by 34%, and they did. In turn, last February, that led to, according to the chief, Michael Bullock, a section of Austin's city that for a few hours in a day in February had no police because they did not have the resources to employ enough officers and send those officers to those needed places. That's directly as a result of left-wing policy. In 2021, as a result of left-wing policy, the New York Police Department retirements went up 75%. We've done reporting on this show of the cash bail reform policies. All of those are coming from the left. And so when people are voting for, in this election, again, I know I'm a broken record, but it's not, Democrat and Republican, it's not that anymore. when you're voting for Donald Trump, or when you're voting for most, not all, Republicans nowadays, you're voting to restore police. Like, that's what it is. You're voting to restore police money. I hate that that's now a partisan thing, but it is. It's just the truth. I put meritocracy as another one of those Venn diagram values that is now, I believe, being defended by the right. I mean, hello, DEI? Where does DEI come from? DEI comes from the Democratic Party. It's Democrat President Joe Biden who is putting these DEI programs in our federal government and allocating federal funding, as in the case of the NIH, and making it, tying it to DEI diktats, such as you get this funding if you write this diversity statement, etc. That's coming from the Democratic Party. That is a war on meritocracy. And so voting for the right is not so much voting for conservatism, it's just voting to get rid of that, to restore meritocracy, to restore an American value. I don't need to go through all of the examples. I think we have a pretty good idea, but I'll go through just a few more. You know, freedom of speech and religion. That used to be something that, as I said, Democrats and Republicans used to really embrace as American values. There is now a movement, not by every person who's a Democrat, or not by everyone who's a liberal, or not by everyone who's a left-winger, but it is a movement coming from the left to silence speech. I mean, just think colloquially in your own lives, how many people you probably know from my generation who believe in hate speech laws. Are they Republican? No. And I know people may accuse me of making sweeping generalizations, but just because there are exceptions doesn't undermine the generalization. That's a war on freedom of speech. I'll give you another example of the war on freedom of speech. Not just speech being silenced, but speech being weaponized. In Illinois right now, the left is trying to amend the Abused and Neglected Child Reporting Act in order to reinvent the definition of abuse to say that an abused child is one whose parents don't affirm their gender. That's insane. That's weaponization of speech. Here in California, the California Department of Education is pressuring a school district to not notify the parents of a child transition. And they're saying that if that school district does notify parents of a child transition, then they are, quote, discriminating against that child. That is a weaponization of the word discrimination. And this is coming from the left. I'm not saying that Republicans don't do crazy stuff. Of course they do. I'm not saying every Republican is fantastic. There's some crazy Republicans. I've talked about them on my show. I've talked about crazy activities of certain Republicans. But it is a left-wing project that's a war on freedom of speech. And generally, it is a right-wing Donald Trump project to try to defend it. Freedom of religion. Let's put up a picture. This is picture 5 of the pro-lifers, this story that a lot of people don't know about. There are 6 pro-lifers who trespassed on an abortion clinic. And that is against the law. You cannot trespass on an abortion clinic. They were singing hymns, handing out Bibles, trying to prevent people from getting abortions. I'm a law and order girl. If you break the law, there are consequences. But for breaking that statute, which is the FACES Act, that carries a 6-month generally sentence. Guess what these pro-lifers are getting right now for their trespassing? 10.5 years in prison. Are you telling me that's not politically motivated? Are you telling me that that is not a way to take away one's, to weaponize and truly discriminate against one because of their religion? It's ridiculous. And again, this is what Donald Trump is running to try to unravel. And he comes with a lot of issues. He does. He has not always said or behaved in the best ways. But this is about civilization, and this is about our country and unraveling stuff like that. As a final point, before we continue tomorrow by playing some clips from the past to really show how stark the differences are. Before we continue, I want to tell you about two things that you should consider. The first is buying gold. Economists warn that massive tax hikes could devastate your IRA and 401k account as the stock market braces for impact. With inflation and the rise of global uncertainty looming, it's clear why central banks and savvy Americans are turning to gold. If you haven't had your eye on gold, maybe it's time to make it a priority. I'm Julie Hartman, and I urge you to consider Priority Gold. Call them to find out how they can help you diversify your savings with physical gold and silver. Call 1-800-405-GOLD or visit prioritygold.com/golden for a free gold information guide. Plus, see if you qualify for free shipping and storage. Experts agree that physical gold is one of the best ways to fortify your savings by tying your money to something tangible, no matter the economic climate. Act now to get your portfolio working for you while the market is golden. Call 1-800-405-GOLD to speak with a gold specialist or visit prioritygold.com/golden to learn more. That's 1-800-405-GOLD. Another thing you should consider is investing in products that will make your life better. A better pillow to sleep on, better slippers to walk on, better towels to dry off on. You should consider MyPillow products. Right now, MyPillow is having a massive sale on almost all of their products. They're calling it the $25 extravaganza, and it's just what it sounds like. You can get 2-pack multi-use MyPillows for just $25. MyPillow sandals, just $25. 6-pack towel sets, just $25. Brand new 4-pack dish towels for, you guessed it, just $25. And for the first time ever, the premium MyPillows with all new Giza fabric, just $25. Orders over $75 will receive free shipping, and this offer won't last long, so go to mypillow.com and use the promo code Hartman or call 1-800-566-6745 today and use the promo code Hartman. As a final demonstration or example to prove my point, one of the things I put in the center and now have moved to the right is objective reality. Back in the 20th century, if you walked up to an average Democrat or an average left-winger and you said, "Hey, are there only two genders?" that person would look at you like you're insane for even asking the question. Not only would they answer yes, they would look at you like you're actually nuts for even asking it. Need I say more? I mean, we know what's going on. Let's roll a clip. This is a clip of a girl's testimony of being accosted in a women's room at her public school. Now, is this coming from Republicans? Is this coming from the right? Where is this coming from? And which candidate and which party is largely trying to unravel it?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and only ladies and gentlemen it is and shall always be.
Amen.
I am an 18-year-old high school student and wanted to take this time to bring to your attention the current issue with biological men claiming they are women and in turn truly believing that they are entitled to use women's spaces. There was an incident within our district that occurred recently regarding a transgender woman who really is a biological man having an altercation with a young woman at MLK High School. It was infuriating when I had seen the video on social media, but what was detrimental to this is the fact that this man is and has been using the women's restroom and locker room. Firstly, the question we must address is why are we affirming the mental confusion of this boy and putting the safety of women in jeopardy by allowing mentally confused men to use the women's spaces? Of course, any male who claims he is a woman will accept it, but what about the women? What about the true girls like myself who are female down to our DNA? Why don't we ever get a say in whether or not we are comfortable with this? The truth is, we aren't. The majority of us aren't, and yet nothing has been done to protect the safety of these women. I will conclude with this. It all starts with you. You are in charge of the safety of us women and the kids of our parents. So please do something about it. Thank you.
Now, I'll end with this. Is that girl a Republican? Is that girl a conservative? I don't know. Most young people, frankly, aren't. I have a feeling if that girl is old enough to vote, that she probably will vote for Donald Trump. And I have a feeling it wouldn't be so much because she adores Donald Trump. I think it would be because she would see him as the person who would stop that crap. Unlike President Joe Biden, who just overhauled Title IX so as to erase the definition of a woman so that more crap like that can happen to girls like you just saw. The moment that we're in is not left versus right anymore. It's civilization versus anti-civilization. It's American values versus anti-American values. And it is a democracy. Whoever you vote for, you have a right to vote for. But as I give my case for why we all need to vote for Donald Trump, I believe, this November, I would ask you that if you're not voting for him, please vote against that. Thank you so much. We'll follow up with this Venn diagram episode tomorrow for a part 2. You're not going to want to miss it. I'll see you then. Take care.